Yeah, the agents putting their lives on the line while they deport the gay hairstylist who has no criminal record whatsoever after going to his permanent residence as a person who keeps telling the government where he is at all times. So we are going to talk about the deportations. One of the stories that has actually penetrated public consciousness a little bit is a man of Salvadoran descent who actually in 2011 got legal status from the United States of America, like permanent protection from the United States of America, because he had escaped El Salvador due to gang violence. Okay. Now, that person has been disappeared alongside the many others that were deported. And we're going to be talking about this because J.D. Vance actually replied to Jon Favreau. My moots are fighting on Twitter on this issue. And he responded in the stupidest right-wing commentaries like a blanket they comfort themselves with. Hasan Piker, your interview with NPR is being re-aired. J.D. Vance is not my moot, but Jon Favreau is. My moot is fighting with the vice president, which I find to be odd. Because why is the vice president getting into Twitter beefs? But also, I guess I'm not too upset about it because, you know, more of this, please. We'll cover all of that in a second. But yeah, this is it. ICE admits to an administrative error after Maryland man is sent to El Salvador prison. A Maryland man with protected legal status was sent to the notorious prison in El Salvador following an administrative error. A U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement official admitted in a sworn declaration on Monday. Let's take a look.
I trust our intelligence agencies and the intelligence individuals that are within the Department of Homeland Security, that the individuals who are there are members and a part of this.
I guess it's not that crazy that the vice president is getting into Twitter beefs, considering that the real president, Elon Musk, was getting into Twitter beefs with me a couple days ago. So
this organization and have worked with them. And while we were there at that prison, we not only talked about how to identify these members of these terrorist organizations, but what they did, their actions they took, the case files we built on them, and how we verified that those individuals should be there in that prison. I'm very confident in the fact that those individuals that are there should be there, and that by belonging to these organizations, they were choosing to be on the side that wanted to destroy the United States of America.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem expressing confidence that her agency is only removing criminals from the U.S. On Sunday night, 17 additional men were deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador. According to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the U.S. military only transported violent criminals, including murderers and rapists with gang affiliations. El Salvador's president posted another video yesterday showing the men in restraints as they were let off a U.S. Air Force plane. According to a senior State Department official, 7 of the men are Venezuelan citizens, while the other 10 are citizens of El Salvador. Meanwhile, the Trump administration acknowledged in a court filing yesterday it inadvertently deported a Maryland man to El Salvador because of an administrative error, but that U.S. courts are...
Now, he's not the only person that has been deported, even though he's not the only person that has been deported that did not deserve this deportation. He's just the only person that ICE has taken responsibility over so far, even though ICE has taken responsibility and then doubled down and said, sorry, nothing we can do about it. No way to bring him back. Now, what is completely psychotic about every part of this process is, ironically enough, if these deportations that are being done without due process were conducted with due process, that person would not be trapped in a slave labor prison in El Salvador right now. That's kind of the whole point of my argument that I have been talking about nonstop. And I don't think people understand how devastating this is. No amount of Cory Booker filibustering is going to change this reality. The Democrats need to take stronger action than this. This is changing the very fabric of American society, okay? This is the most pressing issue with this administration. I need you to understand this. It is more important than the tariffs. It is more important than Doge layoffs. It's more important than f***ing Elon Musk being annoying. This is the number one issue. And I'm not saying that because I have a soft spot in my heart for migrants or whatever, okay? Because this is not even just about immigrants. This is about eroding an incredibly important part of the judicial structure in this country. This is the number one issue with this administration, if I were to rank them. And before people go, oh, is it more important than Gaza? Ironically enough, it touches on the situation in Gaza as well. When due process is eroded, nothing else matters. Do you understand? Nothing matters. They can just kidnap you and put you through the system without any sort of recognition or any care or consideration because you have no defense. Anyone and everyone will be harmed by this. Like this dumb who says, who cares if they kidnap a terrorist? This story is quite literally ICE saying this guy wasn't a terrorist. This guy was a legal resident in the United States of America. Oopsie, we fucking kidnapped him and shipped him off. But that's not the point. That's not even the point. The point is you will be considered a terrorist tomorrow and you will have no defense. Yeah, I want to watch this video because I saw this. I saw this and it just like broke my brain.
Powerless to order his return. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a Salvadorian national who came to the U.S. at the age of 16 in 2011 after fleeing gang threats in his native land. According to Politico, he was deemed by an immigration judge in 2019 to be a likely member of the MS-13 gang, a decision he sharply contested and that the government credited to information.
Yeah, except guess what? That was a claim made by another prisoner, okay? And guess what? The judge found that the claim was erroneous. It was made up, as in he was able to contest successfully a false claim that was made against him in a court of law when there was due process.
Gleaned from a confidential informant. But the court also agreed at the time that he should not be deported to El Salvador, finding that his fear of being persecuted or tortured was credible. On Monday, attorneys for the government admitted that Abrego Garcia was deported accidentally. Although ICE was aware of his protection from removal to El Salvador, Abrego Garcia was removed to El Salvador because of an administrative error. Trump lawyers said
For those of you who at this point still don't know what due process is, I'm going to tell you. Okay? The principle of the due process guided the framers of the U.S. Constitution. The Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment, for example, prohibit federal and state governments from depriving people of their life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. As in, if your freedom is going to be taken away from you, and it's understandable in certain instances, obviously, if you're like a violent criminal or whatever, innocent until proven guilty matters. You must be able, you must be found guilty beyond reasonable doubt in a court of law. As in, there has to be an investigation. Your side will defend the claims being made by the prosecution. A jury will judge you. A judge will adjudicate so that this doesn't happen. Do you understand? Here is directly from the Cornell Law School Legal Information Institute. The Constitution states only one command twice. The Fifth Amendment says to the federal government that no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. The 14th Amendment, ratified, uses the same 11 words called due process clause to describe a legal obligation of all states. These words have as their central promise an assurance that all levels of American government must operate within the law, legality, and provide fair procedures. Most of this article concerns that promise. We should briefly know, however, 3 other uses of that word have had in American constitutional law. The Fifth Amendment's reference to due process is only one of many promises of protection the Bill of Rights gives citizens against the federal government. Okay, it's there to protect you from the government, from government overreach. That's what the Constitution does. Originally, these promises had no application at all against the states. The Bill of Rights was interpreted to only apply as against the federal government, given the debate surrounding its enactment, blah, 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 blah. Okay? But substantive due process. The words due process suggest a concern with procedure rather than substance. And that is how many, such as Justice Clarence Thomas, who wrote the 14th Amendment's due process clause is not a secret repository of substance, are guarantees. Okay, this is like boring legal interpretations coming from Supreme Court justices. But basically, the clause reflects the Magna Carta of Great Britain, King John's 13th century promise to his noblemen that he would act only in accordance with the law and that all would receive the ordinary procedures of law. It also echoes Great Britain's 17th century struggles for political and legal regularity. It is at the heart of what like Western liberal democracies have maintained. Okay, it's like other countries and other cultures have had similar versions of this as well, but it's like long-standing precedent. It is one of the most significant aspects. That's why when you watch like historical fiction or whatever, and those guys are wearing the wigs, even all the way back in the fucking 13th century, there is some kind of legal work being conducted because every man has a right to a fair trial. Because without that, you can just go up to a random person and say, I'm a member of the law enforcement. I'm a member of law. I am a law enforcement officer, and I have declared you to be engaging in illegal acts. I do not have to prove any of those things. I can simply claim you did so, and you have no recourse. I am now kidnapping you. I am putting you in jail, and I am deporting you. In that process, you have no way of going, no, I'm an American citizen. No, I am innocent. Nothing. That's what that fucking means. It's insane. And that's precisely what's going on. And it's shocking to me that Americans can't recognize this and think, as a matter of fact, that non-citizens shouldn't get this procedure. It is quite literally what happened in the witch trials. Due process at the heart of innocent until proven guilty. You have to be able to prove your innocence. If you can't, then everyone is guilty. I can't believe I'm describing the most basic concept. Because guess what? If due process does not exist in this country, and currently as it stands, the Trump administration is actively eroding this constitutionally protected right that everyone has. If due process is eroded, then all of us are non-citizens. You understand? Every single person in this chat, no matter how fucking white or rich you are no longer a citizen. You are a terrorist. It is entirely up to the person that brands you as a terrorist. If you think it won't harm you, you are wrong. Giving this unimaginable amount of power to a bunch of fucking psychos is insane. Conservatives know this, but they think constitutional rights are only reserved for citizens and non-citizens are exempted. It doesn't matter. Because you can't prove your citizenship if due process doesn't exist. That is my point. There is no citizen and non-citizen if there is no due process. Your citizenship is now entirely in the hands of the person who's apprehending you. That's how this works. Yes, of course that includes me. That includes every single person on U.S. soil right now, citizen or non-citizen, tourist alike. Jewish last name hack? What? No, that's not a hack, chatter. You will not be spared. The fuck? That chatter he wasn't being anti-Semitic. That chatter is most likely Jewish themselves. He's just a 49-month subscriber. Yeah, he said, I'm Jewish. Come on. A 49-month subscriber isn't going to fucking magically be anti-Semitic out of nowhere like that. By the way, this just also, this is breaking news, but judge rules that Mahmoud Khalil's habeas case should go forward in New Jersey because that's where he was when the petition was filed. They poured over 67 pages of analysis on the issue. This is a part of that structure. This is a part of the due process, ironically enough. The very fact that he's still in the custody of the state is insane to me. It is crime in and of itself. The Trump administration wanted to move it expeditiously to Louisiana, but they failed. As of this moment, the case will proceed in New Jersey, where the activist judges will most likely take a fairer approach to the matter because they're not the actual activist fucking judges in Louisiana. Are you going to cover Senator Booker making history right now on the Senate floor? I am going to make history by Brian Kilmeeing on live stream. I feel like you should be boosting his speech right now. No, man, I don't care about fucking Lin-Manuel Miranda-ass speeches on the fucking Senate floor while I'm talking about constitutional rights being shredded, okay? Shut the fuck up. He's making history, he says. I covered it this morning. If you want to see my reaction to it, I'm sure one of the HasanAbi fan accounts have already probably posted it. Ay, ay, ay. Libs literally don't fucking care about this at all. It's insane. I know. Let's continue.
Court has no ability to bring him back now that he is in Salvadorian custody. The man's attorney is asking the court to order the Trump administration.
My filthy leftist crafting group is praising Cory Booker and yelling at everyone who says it's performative. These hacks ain't leftists. I mean, you should ask them what he's filibustering. Like, what Senate procedure are they limiting with this action? Because that's what filibuster is supposed to be. A filibuster is not supposed to just be about like talking.
Ask for his return and, if necessary, to withhold payment to the Salvadorian government, which says it's charging the United States $6 million a year to jail U.S. deportees. Trump administration attorneys told the court to dismiss the request on multiple grounds, including that Trump's primacy in foreign affairs outweighs the interests of the man and his family, and also noted that he was not likely to be tortured or killed in El Salvador. According to his attorney, Abrego Garcia has no criminal record, is married to a U.S. citizen, and has a 5-year-old disabled child who is also a U.S. citizen.
So John, you're covering the story, and of course, the judge in 2019, during President Trump's first term, said that if he went back to El Salvador, he was likely to be tortured, right?
Yes.
So he's in El Salvador right now, and they're admitting that they made a mistake. The president has a very close relationship with the El Salvador government, Salvadorian government. Can't they just say, we made a mistake? We need...
please return this man.
Please return this man, and we'll process him correctly.
President Trump just yesterday took to Truth Social to praise the president of El Salvador, thank him for his help in his immigration policies. This is the first time the administration has admitted a mistake. This is not the first time that others have said there's been a case of mistaken identity. We've heard from other family members, other immigration activists who say, look, you've swept up some of the wrong people and deported them to this prison in El Salvador, which is known as a hell prison. And this, though, the Trump administration is saying, yes, we shouldn't have deported him there, but are claiming, and again, let's make clear, claiming that they have no ability to get him back. Now that's the crux of it now. The families, this man's attorneys are pushing to say that's ridiculous. Of course you can withhold payment. Reverend Sharpton, this is something where this man needs to be returned. He's committed no crime here in the United States. He has no criminal record. Police at the time, when he was first rounded up, they said they had no evidence he was a gang member, though an immigration judge said deemed it, quote, likely because of information they got later from a confidential informant. But the fact of the matter is, this is someone who has not committed a crime in the United States other than being here illegally. And in defiance of court recommendations, the Trump administration put him to El Salvador and claims they just can't get him back.
And I think that this is the kind of example.
Bro, it's crazy that they can't even fucking, they still, when they're covering the story in a critical tone, they still have to hand it to the Trump administration a little bit, where they're like, well, he might have been a criminal. There's actually some veracity to these claims. It's like, no, there isn't. There fucking isn't. And once you file a claim to be here and a immigration judge decides that there is enough reason for you to fear for your safety and therefore allow you to be here, something that the fucking current ICE administration has, the current administration's ICE agents have recognized. Why the fuck are you bringing this up?
That those of us that resist this administration ought to really be amplifying, because you have to make people in Wisconsin, in Florida, understand that could be you. This guy has no reason to be in a jail in El Salvador. He's only there because of Trump's policies. And now the Trump people are saying we can't do anything about it, whether we believe that or not. I mean, how do you do that in the United States of America? And to say to a court, well, his interest, the president's, outweighs the family. Well, I thought the president's interest was to protect all the citizens of the United States. Here's a woman who's a citizen whose husband is there, admittedly for no reason. This is a threat to everybody, but you have to drive that to the public to understand.
First of all, no one believes that the Trump administration cannot get this guy back. If they actually want to get him back, they may not. They've been dictating the terms of this relationship with El Salvador from the beginning, paying $6 million to take all these alleged criminals. And I think the larger point, Joe, something we talk about, which most Americans say, if you have gang members who are here illegally committing crimes, get them out of the country. Right. People support that.
Nobody
but what
disagrees.
happens when you go in with a big net and scoop up a lot of people, in some ways indiscriminately, you're going to get stories like this.
Well, and this goes back to what we said the morning before Jeffrey Goldberg came on with the second signal info dump, which is sometimes the best political move, the smart political move, is to say we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Not going to do it again. In fact, we've learned from our mistake. And while we think this is a policy that most Americans want, and we said we were going to do, we made a mistake with this one gentleman. We're going to bring him back, and he's going to go through the correct deportation process, and he'll have due process, everything else. So, yeah, but to say we don't have the power, nobody believes that. So, again, sometimes it's just best to say, hey, we're doing a lot of stuff. We messed up. We're going to bring this guy back and do the right thing.
The problem is...
And Americans will say, okay, this policy, I support the policy, and they're admitting when they make a mistake.
The entire flights are in question because these people did not receive due process, and the judge, so there's a bigger issue going on about the entire group of men that were sent to El Salvador, and more being sent now. And now they're saying a mistake, but we can't fix it. My God. We'll be following this. We'll have much more.
But again,
tomorrow.
the thing is that this is something that, first of all, was promised on the campaign, but it was promised for criminals, right? Number one.
Right.
Number two, it is a policy that the overwhelming number of Americans support. So carried out in a way.
This is the voice of the opposition, dog. We're in Nazi Germany, okay? Like, even in an instance where the only reason why this is a story is because the ICE facilities, the ICE administrators admitted to their wrongdoing, and there's nothing we can do about it. This is not the only person who has been deported with erroneous claims, okay? This is the only person so far that they have recognized they've deported with erroneous claims. And this is the coverage that you're affording to the matter? Oh, well, Americans did vote for this. They wanted this. Like, that's insane. That's fucking insane.
Way that will keep the overwhelming the Americans on your side. And when you make a mistake, admit it, fix it. And Americans are like, okay, they fixed it.
I'm losing my mind.
El Salvador recognizes that these gang members are members of a terrorist organization, which is exactly how President Trump is approaching MS-13 and TDA as well.
That's Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on her recent trip. She joins us now. Thank you for having us at the department.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here today.
First, I want to ask you about President Trump. He said the attacks on Teslas. Do you see that as domestic terrorism?
I do, and it's an act of violence, and it has ramifications on community members and at times has risked people's lives. I do see that as an act of domestic terrorism, and we certainly have a president who's willing to use his full authorities to go after people that choose to destroy people and communities and businesses in the way that people have.
I want to talk to you about your trip. El Salvador, Colombia, Mexico. What did you take away from that?
Well, my task as Homeland Security Secretary is to secure the homeland of the United States of America. So I have jurisdiction over every person that comes in and out of this country, every product that comes in and out of this country, and everything that transpires over the internet. Talking to these presidents of these three countries was very productive. I had a conversation with the president of El Salvador about the TDA members that he accepted and took into his CCOT prison. We toured that prison, which I'm sure you are well aware of, and
that was
saw
some
the
of the most
conditions
striking images from that trip,
Yeah.
of you touring that prison. Just the image alone, was that sending a message?
Yes, people need to see that image. They need to see that the United States is going to use every tool that we have to make our communities safer, that is a consequence of someone who is a terrorist. The president has declared Tren de Aragua and MS-13 as terrorist organizations, and the president of El Salvador has as well. The only people allowed in that prison are terrorists. And to tour that and to look at that was giving the American people the transparency that they want out of their government. They were able to see exactly where we're sending these people who have murdered and raped Americans, that have decimated communities, and there's going to be consequences for individuals who continue to do that. My conversation with that president was, will you take more of these terrorists? And he said, absolutely, we will. We will take the worst of the worst and make sure that they're facing consequences for what they've done to your country.
I think there's a lot of people who look at this, Madam Secretary, and say, yes, get the bad guys out. But they want to make sure that the people that are rounded up and taken out are really those guys. There are some allegations from activists and media and immigration attorneys that a few of the people you sent to El Salvador via the alien are not members of criminal gangs, or that they might not be. Do you see those as credible at all? And if you found out, would you work to take them out of El Salvador?
I trust our intelligence agencies and the intelligence individuals that are within the Department of Homeland Security, that the individuals who are there are members and a part of this organization and have worked with them. And while we were there at that prison, we not only talked about...
The activists he's talking about are literally the legal counsel of these victims, okay? They're not fucking activists. They're immigration attorneys. And depending on what he's talking about, it could even mean federal immigration judges. These are not fucking activists, dude. What are you talking about? These are people who are trying to defend their clients as the federal government is actively taking away every point that they could defend their clients, including due process.
How to identify these members of these terrorist organizations, but what they did, their actions they took, the case files we built on them, and how we verified that those individuals should be there in that prison.
So we'll
continue to do that. I am very confident in the fact that those individuals that are there should be there, and that by belonging to these organizations, they were choosing to be on the side that wanted to destroy the United States of America.
Immigration enforcement is one of the biggest things that is a positive for President Trump right now, yet Democratic lawmakers talk about it a lot. Take a listen.
Any immigrant can be accused of association with gangs and cartels, and they will be deported without due process of law.
There's not much to this president's agenda. It's tax breaks for the rich and rounding up immigrants. That's the whole program.
You have to have due process. What if you got the wrong person? That is the whole point of all of this.
So what do you say to those Democrats and what's happening now with Tom Holman and what you're seeing on the border?
I would say those Democrats are doing exactly what they've done for years. They're trying to use fear to control people. They're using fear to promote their agenda and lying about what the situation is really here on the ground. We are doing due diligence to make sure that we're going after these criminals that have perpetuated violence on American citizens, and we're removing them from our country. Our president has told us clearly he's prioritizing these criminals and the worst of the worst, those with final removal orders, and that we're making sure that not only did we secure our border, but that we're making sure we don't let those people back into this country.
Lying is OP. Projection is OP. Yeah. It's the Democrats that are going, hey, these Democrats aren't even against deportation. Okay. They're against no fucking legal setting, no fair trial, no trial whatsoever, no due process whatsoever, and then doing deportations. They're saying if you're going to deport people, like, you have to investigate whether or not they are deportable. It's fucking insane. I'm losing my mind. Holy fuck.
We have deported over 120 people that are on the known terrorist watch list out of this country, over 800 TDA members, and over 100,000 different arrests have been made of criminals that are out of this country. Every single family that can identify with Laken Riley's family, Jocelyn Nungary's family, people who were devastated by these criminals are thankful that they're gone, and President Trump is on the right side of history.
Do you think the Mexican president, you talked to her, is doing enough to defeat the cartels down there?
You know, we talked extensively about that. I do. She's participated a lot on our southern border, but we want her to secure her southern border with Guatemala. We want her to share some more information with us. Right now, we don't scan every single shipment that comes into this country over air freight. We have some information sharing that could happen on criminal background checks. So I gave her a list of things that President Trump would be very happy to see, and she was remarkable. It was supposed to be a half-hour meeting. We met for almost 2 hours. Very productive. She did sign some of those agreements with us, and I asked her specifically to share biometric information with us, and she's willing to discuss that, even though that in her country would be a little bit controversial. But she's putting a good faith effort. But President Trump is clear. He doesn't want people to keep talking. He wants to see action. And she has an opportunity to do some things that I will give a report to the president on and see if we can deal with the tariff situation that may be facing her people.
Madam Secretary, you talk about the terrorist watch list and the people rounded up. We are removed from 9/11, but the terrorist threat is still there. What do you tell people about what you see every day, knowing what you know about the terrorist threat facing this country?
That it's very real. It could happen today. It could happen.
She's like, yeah, these loony leftists are complaining about due process being violated, which I just defended and I think is awesome. But also, they're doing it with, they're trying to spark fear through erroneous claims. Also, immediately after, I'm going to tell you that a 9/11 can happen at any given moment. A 9/11 today, a 9/11 tomorrow, a 9/11 every day. I'm actually stopping 9/11s happening 9 times out of the 11 days that I've been in office. Actually, I love 9/11. 9/11 is the best. 9/11 all the time. Please panic. Please panic. 9/11 all day, every day. Please panic. Psycho. Yeah, good thing Republicans don't try to stoke fear in the hearts of Americans, in the minds of Americans with ridiculous claims, dude. Good thing that's just a Democratic Party thing that the Democrats do.
Happen tomorrow. We have people in this country that would do 9/11 all over again if given the opportunity. And we have to have a strong president that stays dedicated towards securing not just the interior of our country, but the exterior, and using every tool that he has to fix what Joe Biden broke. Joe Biden purposely broke this country and our democracy and put us at grave risk. So I'm so thankful that we have a president that recognizes the threats that we have and lets me do my job to follow through on what task he gave me.
You know, we had a lot of focus on the DOJ interviews I did with Elon Musk and members of that DOJ team. They've been in every agency. I assume they're here.
They are.
You're working with DOJ. What are they finding, and are they rooting out some of the waste fraud?
Yeah, they've been fantastic. We have worked with them. I take a lot of extra items to them, all my contract evaluations, people who are in position, should they be there? Is this the mission that that agency was created for? What can we do to become more streamlined and efficient? They have been extremely helpful in helping us identify that. and looking at where the American people are getting ripped off. And that they're tired of. I tell everybody that every dollar that goes out the door that shouldn't be spent is somebody's Social Security check that won't be there someday when they need it. And President Trump, by allowing Elon and the Doge team to be in here and evaluate everything, really brings a new accountability to government that we've never seen. And is it going to be ugly? Absolutely. For these bureaucrats here who are fighting us every single day, who don't want the dollars to quit getting spent, who want to keep their jobs, yeah, they're going to fight back. But I will tell you, this government is more responsive than it's ever been before. It's refreshing to be here.
Surprising that Kristi Noem now loves dogs all of a sudden. The real Doge annihilator over here, all of a sudden, is a fan of Doge.
Under an administration that truly gets up every day and decides, you know what, today I'm fighting for the American taxpayer. Taxpayers oftentimes in our offices don't have a lobbyist that shows up for them. There's lobbyists that show up for every other industry and every other contract and every other business. The American common man deserves a person that will sit there and lobby for them, and that's President Trump.
Well, Madam Secretary, thank you very much. We'll talk down in the National Operations Center in a bit.
Sounds good.
Honestly, that's basic stuff. In fact, if you violate the law, that's exactly when due process kicks in, because you get to have a hearing of some kind to determine whether or not the case against you is true. I don't understand why that's even something a congressperson would say.
Well, just to the overall premise, President Trump was elected by the American people to secure the border, end human trafficking, and defeat the drug.
You fucking bots, bro. Every conservative spokesperson for the admin is a goddamn bot. They just straight up repeat the same points over and over again. President Trump has the heavens mandate. God ordained him to save the American people. And that's why we have to kill every Guatemalan. You don't understand. Jesus Christ, dude. Do you feel more secure under Trump? No. What? Who? Who feels more secure under Trump? You have to be a real fucking baboon to think that an administration that's like disappearing people in broad fucking daylight and defending it and actively fighting the courts and eviscerating the crumbling power, the already crumbling power of the judiciary. Like, people go, oh, they're white, but dude, you don't understand. White people are not safe either. You're a fucking idiot if you think, oh, I'm white, I'll be fine. You're a moron. Due process goes away. It doesn't matter. They just go, you're a non-citizen. What are you going to do about it? You can't, there's no court system. There's no mechanism where you can just go, hey, I'm going to prove my whiteness and citizenship.
Drug cartels, hands down. That is what the American people are expecting from him. Just last night, there was 17 additional illegal aliens that were deported, 6 of them who were had raped children. Like, these are people who need to go. The administration has made it very clear
I
that they are
agree.
prioritizing criminals.
I'm going to interrupt because I want to make sure we're staying on the premise here. It's not about actually those people, 17 of them had final orders of deportation. They had actually had their cases adjudicated. They were using basic immigration deporting tools to deport them because they did have their day in court. We're talking about the people who didn't.
But the bottom line is that, first of all, they're doing it very quickly. They're deporting illegal alien criminals. The one thing that I will say is that there's a lot of information that we don't know that Department of Homeland Security does have. They're doing their job. They have the intelligence.
No.
It may not be shared publicly.
No, they're not. You know why I know that? Because when they reveal the information that they do have on the people that they're deporting, we very quickly find out that, no, they don't have fucking any information. They're just making shit up as they go along. Because the goal was never to deport criminals. The goal was to deport brown people. Enough brown people that will make the dumb fucks feel like, you know, we've done enough racism. That's why I kept repeating in the beginning when they kept saying like, oh, we're deporting all the criminals. I was like, what are their crimes? Because the notion that the average undocumented migrant living on U.S. soil that has done a heinous crime that never got their day in court is so idiotic. That would imply that the entire police system, the entire court system was just actively letting undocumented people do fucking rapes and murders. Like, you're out of your fucking mind. That wasn't happening.
publicly, but some of it may not be able to be shared publicly at this
with
point.
the courts either. Go ahead.
They're not doing that. The person that Joe Rogan was talking about, and I actually think he might have been conflating multiple cases, is the story of a gay makeup artist named Andre, who had some crown tattoos with the name Mom on them.
There's still so much we don't know about that.
Are you suggesting that the gay makeup artist is a member of Tren de Aragua, which was the accusation? That was the stated claim. And by the way, there are many more of them. There are three. The reason why I think Joe Rogan is a little bit confused, he mentioned a gay barber. It's actually a gay makeup artist. He might have also been a barber. I found in a 5-minute Google search 3 separate barbers who were sort of rounded up because of their tattoos that were apparently Tren de Agua tattoos. One of them is the Nike Jumpman logo. Another one, multiple crowns. I mean, you know, LeBron has a crown tattoo. Is he a member of Tren de Aragua? Like, this is ridiculous.
Caroline Lovett was asked about this because there was a document that the administration submitted in court that basically said if you have a tattoo, you have clothing that might be associated with this gang, you're in the gang. She was asked about it. Here's what she said.
You can get classified by simply having certain symbols in your tattoos and wearing certain streetwear brands. That alone is enough.
By the way, the process of revoking people's citizenship, declaring people who are legal permanent residents, the people that have proper documentation to be on U.S. soil, the entire "you are no longer a citizen here" attitude is literally what the Nazis did. Okay? That's it. Like, Jews became non-citizens after the racial laws were passed. That's it. They did not deport Jews or put Jews in concentration camps over any other metric. That was the legal standing that they utilized. That was the pre-existing legal construct that they utilized. German folk were real citizens. The white Germans were the real citizens. Jews were not considered citizens. It is the process of denaturalization that took place. An undocumented migrant is an illegal alien, which is a crime to enter the United States illegally. Dude, we've moved so far past that point right now. You are so fucking stupid. First of all, the process of crossing a border in an effort to get an asylum claim filed is already a legal process. So you're wrong about that. Number 2, it's a civil fucking violation. There's a difference between crossing the border and like murdering someone, okay? And we're not even talking about that right now. We're talking about people with the fucking paperwork that ICE is deporting erroneously. Wake up! The law's the law, dude. Sorry. The only difference between an undocumented migrant and a documented one is just paperwork, okay? That's it. That's the only difference. But we're not even talking about that right now. We're talking about the government is doing to legal permanent residents and people with the proper documentation to be in the United States. You're a fucking moron.
Enough to get someone classified as TDA and sent to El Salvador.
That's not true, actually, Andrew.
According to this document, it is.
Shame on you and shame on the mainstream media for trying to cover for these individuals who have. This is a vicious gang, Andrew, and you are questioning the credibility of these agents who are putting their life on the line.
That is what the document said.
Yeah. Can we go back just?
Yeah, the agents putting their lives on the line while they deport the fucking gay hairstylist who has no criminal record whatsoever after going to his permanent residence as a person who keeps telling the fucking government where he is at all times. You understand that, right? The people that they're going after are the easiest targets. They're not even going after undocumented migrants. They're going after documented non-citizens, documented migrants, because they have to constantly tell the authorities where the fuck they're at. So these lazy, fat, piglet pieces of shit in the fucking Department of Homeland Security are like, oh, well, you know, there's not really any criminal gang members that we can find, so let's just make it up. They're doing dragnets across the board on legal residents here, okay? They're doing it to people who are the federal government where they're at, collaborating with the federal government because they were silly enough to believe that America had some semblance of fucking morality. Do you understand that? What happened? I thought these were the scary criminals that we're deporting. Read the ICE document for yourself that Caroline Leavitt refused to answer questions about. It says exactly what Andrew Feinberg said. All it takes is 8 points on a made-up rubric, and that can be just a tattoo, 4 points, or displaying logos or symbols, 4 points. And those tattoos are insane. One of the people that they decided was a Tren de Aragua gang member was a dude who is a swimming teacher, a swimming instructor for autistic teenagers, because his cousin is autistic. And because of that, he had an autism ribbon tattoo, an autism awareness tattoo. That was enough to be like, yep, nope, this guy's a fucking real criminal. Get his ass out of here. It is fucking insane.
Just to the premise of what Joe Rogan was talking about, because he's right. It's horrific to believe that in a constitutional democracy like the United States of America, where it's supposed to be guaranteed that we are having to rely on information based on an administration that does not have a good relationship with the truth. They're not even willing to provide the judges who are part of these cases with the documents to prove that some of these individuals actually either did have due process or had been found to be criminal gang members. And let's be very clear. I don't think anybody at this table wants criminals in this country who are murdering children, who are hurting people. I think that's we can probably go baseline there. But what I think we have to ask ourselves is, if you believe in a constitutional democracy, do you not want your president to follow the law? And by the way, in our own...
Dude, Democrats are so bad at responding to this. Just destroy the false claim. Why are you entertaining this? Why are you conceding to this? Just ask, do you honestly think that the cops and the judges under the Biden administration let rapists roam free when they found out that they were undocumented? Are you fucking insane? Are you experiencing a significant series of mental setbacks that have caused you to truly diminish the processing power that you have in your mind? Because if you believe that, you are the dumbest person I have ever encountered in my fucking life. Not only is there no evidence to suggest that that was what was going on, it would be an incredibly complex web of individuals from all different aspects of the federal law enforcement agencies collaborating with one another under one singular woke banner for God knows what fucking reason. What are you saying? The Biden administration did not just go, oh, are you a rapist, but you're an undocumented migrant from El Salvador? I guess you can go free. My bad. You have to be the stupidest fucking person on the planet if you believe that. And not only that, but also the evidence that is readily available for criminal convictions, charges, arrests, prove the exact opposite reality. What is effing? It's not effing for me. What are you talking about? I fucking hate this goddamn platform that shuts off a server in like one part of the fucking country, and everyone from that part of the country immediately goes, oh, the stream is over for me. Oh, as I was saying, there has never been a moment in the United States of American history where the government has gone, oh, you've done a crime, but you're undocumented. Oops, nothing we can do about it. You're free to do more crimes. That's not real. And not only that, but also there is a process that takes place, of course, when you are an undocumented, when you are a non-citizen across the board, documented or undocumented, you do a crime on U.S. soil, you get prosecuted, you go to jail. And in that process, there is information that's readily available for all of you at the Department of Homeland Security's website, the Customs and Border Patrol website, where you can fucking look for yourself. The rate of criminality amongst undocumented migrants is far lower than natural-born U.S. citizens. Far lower. Undocumented migrants are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens are. You are a fucking moron if you don't recognize that. That's just the truth. So my statement to Karen Finney, former senior advisor of the Hillary Clinton 2016 campaign, is, what the fuck are you doing? What are you saying? Why are you conceding to the made-up hysteria of a white supremacist psychopath. The fuck is wrong with you? Maybe because there's a lot more U.S. citizens, maybe, Law. This is exactly what I mean when I say people want to sound smart, but they're so fucking stupid that they just don't hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. I said per capita. Undocumented migrants per capita are responsible for less crimes than natural-born U.S. citizens are. That is proportional, okay? I'm not telling you in totality. Of course, undocumented migrants are responsible for virtually no crimes whatsoever when you look at the totality.
CNN poll, a vast majority of Americans said they're concerned and want to see Donald Trump follow the law.
Scott, isn't this exactly what we denounce other countries for doing? Not giving our own citizens, when they get wrongfully detained around the world, our own citizens the due process that they deserve?
Well, I think multiple things could be true. Number one, I delineate between American citizens and everyone else. If you're a U.S. citizen...
No, you don't delineate. That means you don't care about the Constitution. There's no delineation in the Constitution. Non-citizens, okay? Non-citizens, migrants, documented and undocumented alike, still get constitutional protection as long as they've crossed the fucking border, okay? When they've crossed the border, they are on U.S. soil. When they're on U.S. soil, they get the same fucking constitutional protections. It's in the Constitution. It doesn't matter what your opinion is on this, okay? It doesn't matter. Either you say, fuck the Constitution, and maybe you do think that way, and that's fine. I don't. There are certain things that I do like within it. This is one of them. Every single person on U.S. soil, citizen and non-citizen alike, have constitutional protections. And one of those protections is obviously a free speech protection from the government taking action against them, which the government is currently violating. And another one is the 5th and 14th Amendment that requires there to be a fair trial. There is no delineation that you can individually make. Unless you want to say, yeah, I don't really care. Some of these non-citizens, yeah, they shouldn't get any fucking due process. They shouldn't get anything. The problem with that argument is that if that is what you want to entertain, if that is your argument, if you are making this argument, you can be one day branded as a non-citizen because now there's no due process. That means they can do whatever the fuck they want to you. Due process of privilege, not a right, like a driver's license. Okay, this person is memeing, dude. They're fucking LARPing in the chat.
I put you in a different category.
On the due process, that's not a distinction that the law makes,
Then if you've come here and broken our laws and committed violent acts or murdered and raped and whatever, I put you in a different category.
When it comes to the law and due process, that is not a distinction.
Well, if you'd like to argue that Trinidad Aragua should have the same rights and that you get as an American citizen, go ahead.
I would change the Constitution.
Hold on a second. The argument
Yes, I will argue that. Yes. Of course. What do you mean? What the fuck do you mean, dumbass? Yes. They should. Because it's not about the actual fucking criminals. It's about people that you have branded as Trinidad. That's precisely the point. How do I know Scott Jennings is not a part of Trinidad? How do I know? Let's say I'm now a fascist little piggy working. I've gotten 100 pounds fatter so I can work for the Department of Homeland Security. I'm a Customs and Border Patrol fascist pig, okay? I knock on Scott Jennings' door. I arrest him under the suspicion that he is a Trinidad member. Scott Jennings luckily doesn't have his ID on him. He says, what are you talking about? I am a Republican consultant. I'm Scott Jennings. I'm on CNN every night. I say, shut the fuck up. And I beat the fuck out of him. And I black bag him. And I put him in a fucking prison cell. Then he says, wait a minute. What's going on? I'm an American citizen. Hello? I'm Scott Jennings. I'm on CNN. I beat the shit out of him even further. Okay? I beat his fucking ass over and over again. He begs me for the aluminum foil that they give to the little children in a fucking deportation facility. I say, fuck you. You don't get it. You're Trinidad. Scott Jennings keeps saying, can I see a lawyer? I say, fuck you. You're Trinidad. What do you mean a fucking lawyer? Then I put him on a fucking plane and ship his bitch ass to El Salvador to a slave labor colony. Okay? Every step of the way, he's like, I'm an American citizen. I'm an American citizen. No, you're not. I have decided, I am the law. I've decided you are Trendaragua. Fuck are you going to do about it? When you don't have due process, it's all up to me. That's why I keep saying everyone is fucking Trendaragua if there is no due process. Everyone is. And it's not like this is a hypothetical that I'm entertaining. This is literally the reason why they're having this fucking argument on CNN. Due process gives you and every single other person the opportunity to defend themselves, to make sure that we're just not nabbing random people and then claiming they're Trendaragua. That's it. That's the point. But I'm not illegal. That's the answer. That's the only answer these fucking dumb fuck Republicans have. I'm not illegal. Okay. You can't prove it, though. You can't prove it. If there's no due process, you can't prove that you're not illegal. I say you're illegal, so you are fucking illegal. That's how it works.
You're saying that a terrorist can walk across the border and become effectively a U.S. citizen?
That's not what I'm saying.
Hold on. Scott, look at me. Okay.
Yeah, let's give the host
you and I are talking.
Respect.
You and I are
Let's give
talking.
respect.
Okay.
Not
What I'm saying to you is that the law does not make a distinction between U.S. citizens and everybody else when it comes to being accused of crimes. Are you saying that that should not be in place? That if you happen to not be a citizen, you get to be thrown into a jail with no process at all?
I'm saying that these people are effectively terrorists. They walked across our borders illegally.
Okay.
They are violent, and I don't really want them here.
But doesn't the government have to prove that they are who they say they are?
Correct.
That's
all we're saying.
That's all.
I think.
I mean, you can say it.
Eventually,
it's not a concession that you like Trendaragua. It's just a question of the basics of civics in this country.
I think eventually the government will have to show all of its cards on everybody that they have detained, deported, or done anything to in this arena. But there is no doubt. There is no doubt that the Trump administration is rounding up effectively terrorists who came across here illegally, committed horrific acts.
Not yet. But eventually they'll have to. But also, I will defend their right not to do so. Yeah, eventually. They'll do it one day. Don't worry. You fucking coward. Goddamn Nazi piece of shit. Scumbag. When there's loyal propagandists like Scott Jennings on CNN, on liberal media, turning around being like, oh, well, you know, I just don't want any Trendaragua in the country over and over again. When the conversation itself is about due process, because without due process, turns out there's innocent people being fucking deported under the suspicion that they're Trendaragua. That's the whole point. You can't just like avoid that point by repeatedly saying, oh, well, what about Trendaragua? Okay, you're fucking Trendaragua now. Suck my dick. I hate these goddamn morons, dude.
And do not need to be in this country.
They are doing that, perhaps, but they're also doing a lot of other things, too. And that's why the courts are asking questions about it.